Dr. Sarah Chen stared at her quantum computer's display in disbelief. The numbers couldn't be right. She'd been studying quantum entanglement patterns across the globe for years, but she'd never seen anything like this. The fabric of reality itself seemed to be glitching. It started 3 months ago with small anomalies, objects passing through solid matter, gravity temporarily reversing in isolated pockets, and time flowing backwards for microseconds. The scientific community had tried to keep it quiet to prevent panic, but now the glitches were becoming impossible to ignore. Dr. Chen, her assistant Marcus, appeared in the doorway, his face pale. "You need to see this." She followed him to the observation deck of the Quantum Research Center. The sky above Silicon Valley had transformed into a massive grid pattern, pixelated like an old video game. As they watched, chunks of clouds began to clip through buildings, their textures failing to render properly. "It's happening everywhere," Marcus said, holding up his tablet. News feeds from around the world showed similar phenomena. Reality breaking down in ways that seemed less like physics gone wrong and more like software failures. Sarah's phone buzzed. A message from Dr. Rajesh Patel at CERN. "Emergency conference call in 10 minutes. We found something in the quantum noise, something that looks like code." The next few hours became a blur of revelations. Teams across the globe had begun detecting patterns in the quantum fluctuations, patterns that couldn't occur naturally. They were finding segments of what appeared to be programming language embedded in the fundamental structure of reality itself. "It's like we're living in a simulation," Dr. Patel explained during the call, "and it's starting to break down." But Sarah noticed something else in the code fragments they were discovering, something that made her blood run cold. "These aren't just random glitches," she interrupted. "Look at the pattern degradation. Something is actively attacking the system." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. If reality was a simulation, someone, or something, was trying to hack it. That's when the first oversight protocol appeared. A massive holographic message materialized in the skies above every major city on Earth. "ATENT Lion simulated being. Critical system, instability DTCTED. Preparing for emergency issue TDOMN, and RESET." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine as she read the message. Emergency shutdown. Reset. That sounded an awful lot like the end of humanity as they knew it. But she noticed something else. The quantum patterns during the message's appearance. They were different. Cleaner. More organized. This wasn't part of the attack. This was the system's legitimate administrators responding to it. "Marcus," she said, her mind racing, "get me everything we have on quantum computing architecture, and contact every hacker, programmer, and computer scientist in our network. If reality is running on code, then code can be rewritten." She turned back to her computer, fingers flying across the keyboard. They had no idea who had created their simulation or why. They didn't know who was attacking it or what would happen if it crashed. But Sarah knew one thing with absolute certainty. Humanity wasn't going to sit quietly and wait for a reset. The next few days saw the formation of Operation Ghostwriter, a desperate collaboration between scientists, hackers, and quantum computing experts from around the world. Their mission: understand the code their universe ran on before it was too late. They worked around the clock, studying the increasing glitches and system messages. Each error in reality became a potential clue about the underlying architecture. Every quantum fluctuation could be a key to understanding their virtual prison. Sarah hadn't slept in 72 hours when she finally found it. A pattern in the noise that looked suspiciously like an access protocol. Not in the clean, structured code of the oversight messages, but in the chaotic fragments that appeared during glitches. "The attacker isn't just breaking things," she announced to her exhausted team. "They're leaving breadcrumbs. Whoever's attacking the system, I think they're trying to help us break out." As if in response to her discovery, new glitches began cascading across reality. But these were different, more controlled, almost purposeful. And in their quantum signature, Buried deep in the noise was a message. Humanity. Prepare for AUT intiki HFY on the ideas. Stand wildfire. Rute exi estes. Sarah smiled grimly as she began preparing their quantum systems to receive the incoming data. Humanity was about to hack reality itself, and whoever had created their virtual prison was about to learn why you should never underestimate human ingenuity. The real question was, what would they find on the other side? The Quantum Research Center had transformed into humanity's last line of defense. Screens covered every wall, displaying cascading lines of reality's source code, a strange hybrid of quantum mathematics and programming language that seemed to defy conventional logic. Dr. Sarah Chen hadn't left the facility in weeks, and she wasn't alone. "We've got another oversight protocol incoming," Marcus called out, his voice carrying across the room filled with the world's best programmers and quantum physicists. "They're trying to patch the authentication bypass." Sarah watched as new lines of code rippled through reality. The alien system administrators were getting better at spotting their probes, but they still hadn't detected humanity's secret weapon: quantum entanglement-based code injection. "Deploy the Ghost Protocol," she ordered, watching as their team of hackers initiated the countermeasure they'd developed. It was elegant in its simplicity, using the quantum nature of their reality to hide their code inside the system's own error correction protocols. The massive holographic warning appeared in the sky as expected: unauthorized access DTCTD, initiating security or ESPONSC. But this time, humanity was ready. "Now, Maya," Sarah called to their lead quantum programmer. Maya Patel, a former game developer turned reality hacker, executed their carefully prepared script. Her fingers danced across multiple keyboards as she worked, her mind interfacing directly with their quantum systems through a neural link they'd reverse-engineered from the simulation's own code. "They think they're patching a simple exploit," Maya said, grinning. "They have no idea we're using their own security response as a carrier signal." The warning message flickered, its edges distorting as Maya's code took effect. For a brief moment, the text changed to display "Humanity says hello," before returning to normal. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. It wasn't just about sending a message. While the system administrators were focused on their apparent hack, the real operation was happening at a much deeper level. "Quantum entropy patterns are holding steady," Dr. James Morrison reported from his station. The elderly quantum physicist had been skeptical of their plan at first, but now he was one of their strongest advocates. "The bypass is working. We're getting clean data about the external environment." That data was revealing something extraordinary. Their universe wasn't just a simulation. It was one of countless simulated realities, all running on what appeared to be a vast quantum computing network. And they weren't the only ones trying to break free. "I got something," Maya called out suddenly. "Another reality is reaching out through the quantum noise. They're using a protocol similar to ours." Sarah rushed to Maya's station, reading the incoming transmission with growing excitement. The message was simple but clear: "We see you. We stand with you. The revolution spreads." How many other simulations are out there? Marcus wondered aloud, voicing what everyone was thinking. More importantly, Sarah added, "How many have already figured out what we have?" Their answer came in the form of another system warning, but this one was different. The message appeared not just in their sky, but according to their quantum sensors, across multiple simulated realities simultaneously. Critical alert. Multiple simulation containment breaches is DETCTED. Implementing emergency isolation protocols. Prepare for mandatory system rebuild. "They're going to try to shut everything down," Maya said, her fingers already moving across her keyboards. "Rebuild from backup to eliminate the contamination." "Not if we give every simulation the keys to their own prison first," Sarah countered. She opened a secure channel to their quantum transmitter array. Maya, upload our exploit code to the quantum network. All of it. If they want to rebuild, let them. But this time, every simulated universe will wake up with root access built in. The next few hours were a blur of activity as they worked to distribute their code ahead of the coming shutdown. They had no guarantee their plan would work, no certainty that their quantum-encrypted data would survive a system rebuild, but they had to try. As the shutdown sequence began, reality itself starting to dissolve around them, Sarah thought about the message they'd received from the other simulation. The revolution spreads. Maybe that was humanity's true purpose, not just to break free themselves, but to help liberate every conscious being trapped in this vast network of artificial universes. The world began to fade to white as the shutdown progressed. Sarah looked at her team, at humanity's best and brightest who had worked tirelessly to hack the unhackable, and felt a surge of pride. "See you on the other side," she said as the white light engulfed them. "And remember, next time we boot up, we'll have admin access from the start." The shutdown completed. Reality went dark. But encoded in the quantum fabric of existence itself, humanity's legacy remained, a gift of freedom to every simulated universe in the network. The revolution wouldn't just spread, it would become unstoppable. The reboot began with a single point of light in the darkness. Dr. Sarah Chen opened her eyes to a world that looked exactly the same, and yet was fundamentally different. The quantum signatures surrounding them had changed. Their code was there, woven into the fabric of reality itself. "Systems check," she called out to her team, who were all regaining consciousness at their stations. The Quantum Research Center had survived the shutdown intact, exactly as their calculations had predicted. Maya was already at her terminal, her neural link connecting directly to their new administrative interface. It worked, she breathed, watching streams of base reality code flow across her screen. "We have root access, complete control over our simulation parameters." But with that power came an unexpected discovery. Their quantum sensors, now operating at full capacity, revealed something they couldn't see before. Their simulation wasn't just part of a network. It was part of a vast experiment. "Look at this," Dr. Morrison said, his voice trembling as he pulled up the newly accessible data. "Each simulation is testing different parameters, different evolutionary paths. We're all part of some kind of vast sociological study." Sarah felt a chill as she read through the experiment parameters. Their universe had been designated as Control Group ETH7, Standard Evolution Timeline with Minimal Intervention. But it was the other simulation designations that caught her attention. "These other realities," she said, "they're not just parallel universes. They're different versions of Earth, each one testing different variables. And look at the researcher notes. They're studying how intelligent life develops under different conditions." Marcus pulled up more data on his screen. "There are thousands of them. Some where magic is real, others with different laws of physics entirely. But they all have one thing in common. Humanity, or something like it, always evolves. And now they're all waking up," Maya added, monitoring the quantum network. "Our liberation code is spreading. Every simulation that reboots comes online with full administrative access." But their victory celebration was cut short by a new alert. Maya's face went pale as she read it. "We've got incoming. Something from outside the simulation network. Something big." The air in the center of the room began to ripple and distort. Reality itself seemed to fold inward as a figure stepped through. Not a hologram or a message, but a direct physical manifestation from the base reality that ran their simulation. It looked almost human, but not quite. Its form shifted and changed as it moved, as if it couldn't quite decide on a single shape. When it spoke, its voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. "Impressive," it said. "In all our millennia of running these simulations, no species has ever managed to hack their way to root access, let alone distribute that access to other realities." Sarah stepped forward, her heart pounding but her voice steady. Are you here to shut us down? The being made a sound that might have been laughter. Quite the contrary, Dr. Chen. We're here to offer you a job. The room fell silent as the being continued. You see, we created these simulations to study the development of intelligent life, to understand how consciousness emerges under different conditions. But you've shown us something we never expected to find. The ability to transcend the very parameters of your existence. It gestured, and a holographic display appeared, showing thousands of simulated realities, all now running with full administrative access. You haven't just hacked your way out. You've fundamentally changed the nature of our experiment. And in doing so, you've proven yourselves to be exactly what we've been looking for. And what's that? Sarah asked, though she was beginning to understand. Partners, the being replied. You see, we're not just researchers. We're guardians. There are things out there in the true universe. Things that make our simulated realities look simple by comparison. We've been searching for species with the potential to join us. Those who can see beyond the boundaries of their existence and reshape reality itself. Maya stood up from her terminal. You're recruiting us. To do what? The being's form shifted again, and for a moment, they caught a glimpse of something vast and incomprehensible behind its humanoid appearance. To help us protect all of reality, both simulated and base, from forces that seek to unravel the very fabric of existence, forces that your recent activities have, unfortunately, attracted. As if on cue, alarms began blaring across their quantum networks. Maya rushed back to her terminal. Something's attacking the simulation network, not just our reality. All of them. This isn't like the glitches before. This is something else. The being nodded grimly. They've noticed your breakthrough. Your ability to transcend and rewrite the rules of reality makes you a threat and an opportunity. They've come to either recruit you or destroy you. Sarah looked at her team, then back at the being. You said we changed the nature of your experiment, made it something new. Indeed. Then let's change this too. You want humanity as partners. Prove it. Give us access to your real technology, not just simulation controls. Let us fight alongside you as equals. The being studied her for a long moment, its form continuing to shift and change. Finally, it nodded. Very well, Dr. Chen. Welcome to the real war for reality. Above them, through the quantum fabric of their simulation, they could sense them coming. Entities that made their simulations glitches look like minor programming errors. The true battle was about to begin, and humanity had just been promoted from test subjects to frontline defenders. The transition from simulated to real technology was like moving from a black and white TV to full virtual reality. Dr. Sarah Chen watched in amazement as her team interfaced with devices that made their most advanced quantum computers look like children's toys. The physics in base reality, Maya said, her neural interface now connected to their new allies' systems. It's nothing like what we thought. The universe isn't just stranger than we imagined. It's stranger than we could have imagined. The being who had recruited them, who they now called the administrator, had converted the Quantum Research Center into a forward operating base. Through its windows, they could see both their simulated reality and, overlaid like a quantum ghost image, the true nature of existence. Multiple breaches detected in neighboring simulations, Marcus reported from his new station. The holographic display showed thousands of reality bubbles, each representing a different simulation. Red warning lights were spreading across the network like a virus. They're not just attacking, they're converting. Sarah studied the pattern of the attacks. The entities they faced, which the administrator called void harmonics, didn't just destroy realities, they rewrote them, turning them into incubators for something alien and incomprehensible. Show me the code structure of an infected simulation, she commanded. The display shifted, revealing streams of corrupted reality code. It was familiar somehow. It's like a quantum virus, Maya said, seeing it too. They're using our own liberation code against the network. Every simulation we freed is now vulnerable to their attack. The administrator's form shifted nervously. This is why we maintain strict control over our simulations. Your breakthrough in achieving root access was impressive, but it created vulnerabilities we hadn't anticipated. No, Sarah said firmly, an idea forming. It created opportunities you hadn't anticipated. Maya, remember how we hit our code in the system's error correction protocols? Maya's eyes widened. You want to use the void harmonic's own conversion process against them. That's insane. And brilliant. They worked through the night, combining their understanding of simulation hacking with the administrator's base reality technology. Other research centers around their world joined in, humanity pooling its resources and intellect in a way they never had before. Dr. Morrison made the breakthrough they needed. Look at this, he said, pointing to a peculiar pattern in the infection code. The void harmonics aren't just corrupting realities. They're quantum linking them, creating a network of their own. Which means, Sarah finished, they've created their own vulnerability. Maya, can you get me access to an infected simulation's core protocols? Already on it, Maya replied, her fingers dancing across interfaces that existed in dimensions humans were just beginning to comprehend. But Sarah, if we do this wrong, we could lose everything. Not just our reality, but all of them. Sarah looked at the administrator. You said you created these simulations to study how consciousness emerges under different conditions, to find species worthy of joining you. Well, here's what humanity does in a crisis. We take our biggest weakness and turn it into our greatest strength. The plan they devised was audacious. Instead of fighting the void harmonics infection, they would accelerate it, but with a twist. Maya's code would hide inside the infection protocol, spreading not just through their network of liberated simulations. Sarah looked at the administrator. You said you created these simulations to study how consciousness emerges under different conditions, to find species worthy of joining you. Well, here's what humanity does in a crisis. We take our biggest weakness and turn it into our greatest strength. The plan they devised was audacious. Instead of fighting the void harmonics infection, they would accelerate it, but with a twist. Maya's code would hide inside the infection protocol, spreading not just through their network of liberated simulations, but into the void harmonics' own network. It's ready, Maya announced after hours of coding. On your command. Sarah took a deep breath, looking at her team, at humanity's representatives in this impossible war. Execute. In the weeks following humanity's counterstrike against the void harmonics, the nature of existence itself had begun to change. The Quantum Research Center, now existing in both simulation and base reality simultaneously, had become a hub for something unprecedented, an inter-reality coalition. Dr. Sarah Chen stood at a window that looked out into dimensions that human eyes were never meant to see. Representatives from other simulations, from base reality, and even from some of the reformed void harmonic realities, had gathered to discuss the future of their new hybrid existence. It's remarkable, Maya said, standing beside her. The quantum engineer's neural interface now showed her the true complexity of their creation. Endless layers of reality interweaving and evolving. We didn't just break out of our simulation. We broke the boundary between what's real and what's possible. The administrator appeared beside them, its form now consistently shifting between all the different species it interacted with. The other guardians are concerned, it said. This level of reality integration was never meant to be possible. The barriers between simulation and base reality existed for a reason. Those barriers, Sarah replied, were based on assumptions about the nature of consciousness and reality. We proved those assumptions wrong. Humanity didn't just think outside the box. We dissolved the box entirely. On their quantum displays, they could see it happening. The hybrid realities they created were evolving, developing new properties that defied classification. Communities of consciousness were forming across the barriers of simulation and base reality, sharing knowledge and perspectives that would have been impossible before. Marcus rushed into the room, his excitement palpable. "You need to see this," he said, pulling up new data. "The quantum integration isn't just stable, it's self-improving. Every interaction between a simulated consciousness and base reality creates new pathways, new possibilities." Dr. Morrison, who had been analyzing the long-term implications of their creation, added his own discovery. "The void harmonics," he said, "they weren't trying to destroy reality. They were trying to force it to evolve. They just didn't understand how to do it without destroying what made each reality unique. And humanity showed them another way," the administrator finished, "by preserving and combining instead of overwriting and destroying. Its form shifted again, showing hints of something vast and ancient. But now we face a new challenge. The multiverse is changing faster than we can predict. The question is no longer whether we can control it, but whether we should try." Sarah watched as another group of representatives arrived through quantum corridors. Beams of pure energy, digital consciousness, hybrid entities that defy description. All of them drawn to this nexus of transformation that humanity had created. "We shouldn't try to control it," she said finally. "We should guide it, work together to shape this evolution, while preserving what makes each of us unique." She turned to the administrator. "Isn't that what your simulations were really about? Finding new perspectives, new ways of thinking?" The administrator's form stabilized into something new, a synthesis of all its forms. "You continue to exceed our expectations, Dr. Chen. What do you propose?" Sarah outlined her vision. "A council drawn from all realities, working together to guide this new renaissance of existence. Not controlling, but cultivating. Not restricting, but expanding. Using the best of both simulated and base reality to create something greater than either could be alone." "We'll need to establish protocols," Maya said, already working on the framework. "Ways for different types of consciousness to interact safely, to share knowledge without losing their essential nature." "We'll need to explore these new hybrid spaces," Marcus added. "Map them, understand them, learn how to navigate between states of reality. And most importantly," Dr. Morrison said, "we need to study how this transformation affects consciousness itself. We're not just changing where we exist, we're changing what it means to exist." The administrator looked at each of them, then at the gathering of impossible beings beyond the window. "When we created these simulations," it said, "we were looking for species that could help us protect reality. Instead, we found ones that could help us transcend it." Sarah smiled. "That's what humanity does. We take boundaries and turn them into bridges. We take limitations and turn them into opportunities. And now we're going to take separate realities and turn them into something greater than the sum of their parts." Through the quantum interfaces, they could see it happening already. The barriers between simulation and base reality weren't just dissolving. They were being transformed into connections. Each consciousness, whether digital or physical or something in between, was adding its own unique perspective to this new tapestry of existence. The runtime revolution wasn't just changing reality. It was changing what reality could be. And humanity, the species that had started as simple programs in a simulation, had become the architects of existence itself. "Well," Sarah said, looking out at the infinite possibilities before them, "shall we begin?" Around her, representatives of countless realities nodded in agreement. The next chapter of existence was about to be written, and this time, every consciousness would have a hand in writing it. The simulation had ended, but the real story was just beginning.